in the websites of ministry, they are far more robust and far more giving information to any of the stakeholders to look into. So gone are the days where we were talking about safety belts, and what was safety belt was not defined. From that era to the modern era of the crash, where the basic safety is intact across the fleet. I am saying that across the fleet, regulation serves this basic purpose that you have the minimum safety across the board. We were talking simultaneously on Bharat NCAP, but we understood that our first priority to lay minimum safety across, then only we are qualified to talk on improving the safety margins. And we were also very busy on finding how to remove the unsafe vehicles, old vehicles from the road, because you can't afford to have 5-star cars everywhere, but very mixed traffic with the unsafe fleet on the road and the old vehicles. So that was a big filtration required, and this was also taken care on the fleet renovation program, and also looking at for the commercial vehicles, also the fitness programs. And then we should be proud of the Indian scenario from the harmonization perspective. So practically out of the 126 UNEC regulation, 114 are technically aligned. India is one of the proud country, I would say, and on other 22 subjects, which are new subjects, as we say that ADAS subject, lane departure warning, advanced emergency braking, or accident emergency, and advanced driver assistance systems, already standard making process is on, and draft standard in line with many of the global standards are there. ARAI regularly participates on behalf of Government of India on many of the secretarial work for the WP29 for the country, and all GR groups we represent there. I would like to bring it very important point here. So far, copy pasting the UNEC was one of the, I would say, the ways of standardizing in Indian regulatory perspective. But today, no more it is going to be possible. The copy-paste solutions are not going to help. We have to have localization rather than globalization. We have to have our localized problems also built in, and the solutions have to go with our own data. Important will be our own databases apart from the engineering solutions which can be adopted, as we always have a challenge of a frugal engineering to be done. But frugal engineering is not coming out of some magic. We have to innovate it here and in the country using our own design creativity and our own databases, be it a material database, be it a database for our Indian anthropometry, be it a database for Indian accidentology. Then only we will be able to make the optimum solution. Jugaad is not going to work in a high-tech world with a complexity. So I'm also going to talk few words on beyond regulation, like a Bharat NCAP, as we say that, as we evolve. Because now customer aspirations are going beyond regulation. People have understood that, yes, minimum safety is assured, but I want more safety. So in that case, Bharat NCAP we are now qualified for, as a industry, stakeholders, as a test agency, everybody is prepared, and already the programs are under the review of ministry, and we expect that anytime ministry could put the draft notification for Bharat NCAP. And nonetheless, Global NCAP as a good watchdog from international perspective has done the basic SPED work, which we can build upon. We must also look into that. While we do our own Bharat NCAP, we must use the accident data inputs, what we are gathering, and also simultaneously understand, yes, the basic building block is being given by the Global NCAP, but we can't afford to have a car with two ratings, one rating for adult, other for child. Indian consumer will be completely puzzled if he finds that if I have to buy a car, it is good for for adults, but bad for the child. It is not going to work. We have to improve on that. I do understand that initial stage it was required, because even child safety is still in a very infant stage in the country. So it has to improve. So apart from that, the new challenges today, what we face is, in spite of lot of regulatory intervention, poor adherence to the implementation of the many of the rules. Also, you can see that wearing rate for the seat belt, simply wearing rate of the seat belt, if you look, 40%, 14 to 40% for the driver alone. If you look for the passengers, it goes down to 3.5% to 11%. So what kind of a safety technology is going to help you unless one wants to help himself? Not only that, it's a high time that India adopts the self-discipline of wearing, buckling up, and otherwise many of the efforts that we are taking will go to the drains. Then we also have simultaneous existence of so many different varieties of vintages of the vehicle is another issue which needs to be addressed by filtering out and robustly using our policies of scrappage. Then availability of the road signages and road furniture, which is it has to be ensured across the road. Today it will be available on the new roads, like new vehicles, new roads also will be good star roads, but we can't afford to have bad roads and bad signages on other side. So on the side of this, I would like to say that this is not going to be a magic. It has to be a constant effort by all media, the agencies like us, test agencies, government, industry, and more or less also consumer has to, and as a road user has to get disciplined. This magic is only possible by using this MAGIC. That is my short message, and I'm open for any further questions and deliberations that will take place with the eminent panelists around me, co-panelists with me.
Right, Mr. Manikar. That was a lovely, opening remark, and you sort of covered almost all the bases here, with respect to vehicle safety. Before I move to Mr. Giri and Mr. Verma, you've taken B and cap in your address a couple of times. You mentioned that a draft notification could be out anytime soon. Any realistic timelines as to when can we expect that? And you also mentioned that the global NCAP, all the characteristics are there as a base for the B NCAP to build upon. So once the draft notification comes out, so when do you think, what would be the realistic timeline that the B NCAP actually comes into implementation in India?
Okay, as a safety engineer, I would say yesterday it should have come, but these things are, so many stakeholders are required, so many consultations are there. So practically the documents per se are ready and getting reviewed. That is, will it suffice? Will it have any issues from that perspective? Ministry is looking at it. I think that it is the time is quite right. I will not be able to give any date on that because it is outside my control. But definitely I will say I'm very positive on that. We can soon see this one, and we are very eagerly waiting for, as like you, I am also very eagerly waiting for that. As a matter of fact, we are absolutely ready in the lab to take it anytime ministry declares it. Right. From that perspective, sorry about not able to commit any date from my side because this is outside my control.
Right. I understand. Mr. Giri, Mr. Manikar mentioned about ABS and CBS implementation, which were some of the, the cost-effective solutions to improve safety on the Indian roads. So, your remarks about, the criticality of these frugal engineering measures when we talk about augmenting the overall safety in India.
So, thank you, Manik. Thank you, Manikar sir. I think he updated most of the facts which happened in the last 2 decades in a nutshell of 7 minutes, which is quite exhaustive update to what Manikar sir. That's a specialty and the magic of Manikar sir, that he just comes and with 7 minutes you get 2 decades of information. You should be lucky enough to know all those things, sir. Thank you. So I just before addressing your point, I'll just give a short introduction. I'm wearing 2 hats today, as an head of R&D for accident research and also as technical member of Road Accident Sampling System, the only accident database in the country, RASI. Okay. Like I'll just give a short intro about how this all started. In 2009 and 10, when I just graduated from an engineering, and then I was directly put into a job of doing safety for India. Though I joined an European company, I had always a passion of sitting in an AC room, flying across the world and doing some computer software job. But it did not happen that way. So I was put directly onto the road where I have to go and investigate, measure the crash cars, see the dead bodies, see the injured people, come up with the measurements, identify what is the initial velocity of the vehicle. And that's how all these things started with two people. And today we have almost 85% of the OEM in the consortium of RASI, where we have close to 6,000 accident cases, which is inbuilt. And each of the accidents has been meticulously collected by our RASI team members, where the team of engineers go to the accident spot, collect in 5 different locations across India today. And each accident has close to 200 to 300 photographs and close to 1,000 parameters, which can be utilized for most of the engineering analysis. And in 2010, we did not have any data. So building up data itself took almost a decade for us now. And Bosch, as being an chartered member in this organization of RASI, and we are still continuing it. If you ask me a database which can benchmark with respect to the global database of GDAS, CDAS, OTIS, NAS, I think RASI is one of the best. So again, I'm not marketing RASI here, but at the same time, that's the only data set available to do an engineering analysis. So with this in junction, now we took almost 10 years to develop this whole set of database. Now, what do you do with this data? This is the question. Now, the point is, those were the days when we used to sit in a panel. I think Manika sir also in most of the panels were in CMVR meetings. The influence of the senior members or the influence of the well-known automotive manufacturers, they used to say most of the decisions used to be happening based on the intuition, based on the experience, based on some facts which they hear and their stories. Those days were gone. Now everything is based on the data, and data plays a crucial role. And the last couple of years, I think in the last 3 years, most of the data has been utilized from accident research, and all the outcome, be it NCAP, is all done through the Indian accident research data. So that's the overall introduction of RASI. And for more information, you can just get in and check in the web about what we do and all about the things. Yeah. So now the point is, now the important aspect for us is, like, as we say, copy paste technology. Manikas are already touched. If you consider Indian auto manufacturers or Indian suppliers, especially has the tie with the European world, they develop a product for a European country, and they say you just want to push it to the Indian country or any BRIC countries or developing countries. That's the usual way of, or the usual style of business. But we at Bosch, we take this point very seriously, whether this product is really required for India, whether it fits for Indian behavior, whether it is really needed for our community, is what is very important. So in this case, Manik, you asked me a question, the frugal engineering, is it going to work? Or what about this ABS and DSP and other technologies? Is it going to be beneficial for the country? Okay, before jumping and saying, yes, it is going to be beneficial and marketing about a product, rather you should understand the frugal engineering can work only at a localized environment. If you wanted to take a whole scale of India, where you have around 20 million two-wheeler market and around 4 to 5 million passenger car market, it's a huge volume of market. We need a proper strategy in place, which is enabled by databases to really put the things in place. So those were the days where we had only seat belt as a safety feature. Beyond that, we did not have anything. Then we got 2 airbags. Then we had ABS. Now we are talking about NCAP, crash test regulations, child protection. So many things is happening in the last 1 decade. So when it comes to products as such, we focus on 3 different sectors. The first is the pre-crash, the crash, and the post-crash. So for the benefit of the audience, if you are driving a car, imagine you are driving a car or a motorcycle, you see an obstacle, you try to steer, you try to brake, then you try to do all sort of circles to evade this accident. So any product which fits into this category to evade the accident, to avoid the accident, all comes under active safety. Okay. Then the accident is not avoidable due to XYZ reasons, and you did not have time exactly, and even the obstacle was too sudden, then you have an immediate crash. But the importance here is, it's not about accident avoidance. Its importance is to save the occupants who are sitting inside the car. So all the product like airbags, pretensioners comes under this category of passive safety. Okay. And the third segment is the assistance, where there is a lot of noise around the market today about ADAS, L1 features, L2 features, L5 features. There are so many things which is discussing. Anything which assists the driver to evade an accident by giving an additional information and have an additional intrusion to the technology is called ADAS system. So we can talk in the due discussions in the future. When it comes to benefit, so far what I have done, I can share. So the first thing what we did is we did an exhaustive analysis on close to 3,000 accident cases for motorcycle. And I went through all the 3,000 cases with piece by piece with identifying the brake mark, stretch marks, initial speed. So there are a lot of parameters went into it. And then we identified ABS two-wheelers for India can have close to 30% benefit. Yeah, the data is already been published in SA International Journal. You can download and read it. And also for electronic stability control, again, this is another important technology which is available for passenger cars. Definitely this is going to help in order to get the stability on the car. Okay, again, the benefit is close to around 15 to 16% is what we have identified for all the passenger car segments. So going beyond, we can do benefit estimation for all the products, but at the same time, bumping too much of technology into the market is also another critical part. Okay, we just started off with airbags, then with two-wheeler ABS, passenger car ABS, now with again a lot of talks on six airbags, now with NCAP. If you look at the horizon of India, in the last 6 to 8 years, we got close to 5 to 6 technology into the industry, yeah, which took almost 3 to 4 decades in Europe to evolve. So we are too fast. I think that we are trying to pitch in too many things at this point in time, but at the same time, we have to understand what is really required for the country and deliver the right product. Again, when you analyze the accidents, accident causes not only by adding a right vehicle safety products, you can avoid an accident. Okay, it's on part of it. If you know the reason of any accident is cross-tabulated across head-on matrix, where 3 factors is involved: human factor, vehicle, and infrastructure. All these 3 things has to be developed equally, and then only you can avoid the accidents. So this is what a nutshell of how a RASI was developed and how Bosch is working with the RASI data in order to develop the right product for the country and bring in the right product at the right point in time. That is also important for the country. Right. So I think, I have few more data, possibly in the due discussions. If I get, I will share with my exact research data of RASI and some intricacies about the new products which is going to come. Over to Manik. Thank you.
Absolutely, Mr. Giri. We'll come back to you with all, getting all that data points from you. I'll come to Mr. Verma now. Mr. Verma, we've talked about we heard Mr. Giri talk about, bringing in right technology at the right time, but also, right costs. So being in the product development, how do you think, affordability, we've been talking about 6 airbags in cars as well, but do you think affordability is also one of the key questions that needs to be solved first?
Yeah, exactly. I will come to your affordability. You see what we are talking about in terms of safety or designs. Nothing new. Everything is available. This is the cost, and this is the I think very much India problem that really whatever we say, even electric vehicle technology is available. The cost, which is the limiting factor at this moment. And if we see the India specific, it's entirely different. So no copy paste. We have to have our own solution. Indian roads, we cannot compare abroad. The vehicle developed in North America, US will have different fatigue on their road. Indian roads, very bumpy, holes and those kind of things. To the extent that speed breakers in North is different than while I am driving in Pune. And a small vehicle, it's a history. So we have not, like China, grown from the big car to the medium and now, but India has grown. Legacy Suzuki, small cars, and now big cars are coming. And now driving behavior, that's also big questions. All the 3 means, and looking at the safety, very, very, very important. This has become really, we understand what we need locally. Now I'm in product development. I cannot take, say, our crash resistance product like adhesive or replacement of steel directly here, and we have to work with them with their requirement. But there is change. I will say awareness. You might have seen many OEMs. They are marketing India's first safest car, and those cars have structural bonding. They are the bond end because you need a good design, and design always comes if safety and lightweight. They are opposite to each other. So technology, you put more steel, it is safe. In terms of, I'm saying, the structure of that, I'm not talking about, say, the brake and other system. So nothing new for them, but if they have to go for the lightweight, because the car has to be efficient, then for the crash, they have to be more consequences of that. So here comes, I'm being in product development, looking at those, whether the adhesive is obsolete or not being talked about in North America and Europe, ride and handling, fatigue, we change the driving behavior, they are very prominent here. So many OEMs, they have very successful car, 0-star rating. Now, again, both are how to talk about very popular car, but star rating is 0. Where is the gap? Design is the gap or consumer awareness is the gap? Now, Mr. American is saying regulation is there, there no reinforcement. So we also have to take responsibility as a consumer regarding the affordability. If I'm going to spend on a car very cheap in the market, but 0-star rating, then we should really think about it, because responsibility we cannot put only to government, only to the OEM, we as a consumer also. And then really, because nothing will come, everything will add to certain extent of cost, but affordability doesn't mean that really we earn premium out of that. So that's comes like we have to have local solution. So what we did or what we are doing to show them, say, through CAE, and this is what many OEMs are asking about, that whatever you want to say, bring as a technology, don't expect us, we will do R&D for you, you show us. And everyone is reducing development cycle. The moment we touch safety aspect of any vehicle, OEMs will only go for the proven technology. Unfortunately, here we are not so much of innovative like in China. All the startups, they are just taking head on with North America. Whatever invention they want to do, they will do. Whatever electric vehicle they want to, they are least bothered. They want to have their best vehicle on the road. So they are bullish on invention, innovation. Here, okay, so because the cost factor is there, as I told, as a consumer, we should also own responsibility. If 2 vehicles I go to purchase, one is, say, the better star rating and one is 0-star rating, I should pay some attention, my preference not to the color, brand, but to the safety also. This how this should come, and we should take this responsibility. Then only I think the ARAI, everyone, I think Mr. Giri, everyone putting a lot of efforts, but we can put efforts, we can make this affordable with localizations, with local validation, reduce the cycle time. We are a chemical company, but we had tie up with a design company, because our DNA is chemistry. I'm a polymer chemist, but if I go to the OEM, they will like to hear the physics of chemistry, how crash, how NVH. So we have tie up with them just to make our, say, so we are able to sell, convince, reduce the design cycle. I think this is the what in Made India we should be doing, that develop our local competency, not bringing technology from them, and really making them like workable, both not in terms of, say, improving the like, say, only crash performance or safety performance, because I can only talk about ride and handling, crash, and electric vehicle. Now this is being looked in a different way, but we are also bringing lightweight solutions, like our crash resistance material, 0.6 density, which can replace steel with 7 density. So that's where we are making balance. They need bonding, they need reinforcement, how to add on some certain feature which reduce the weight also. So those way, and reduce their process, a lot of different aspects, maybe not the scope of this company. I will not talk about my company, but
Right.
yes, affordability is with the local solution, what is really matters for it. But keep as a consumer, we should be also like, if I like, own some certain responsibility.
Right.
Technology, I will say nothing new. We have to dream about, everything is available, but affordability is a big challenge. So localization is the best solution, with the local capability, not just bringing the solution, localizing it, reaching to OEM, really how to make them so that they don't just say put all over the body where it is required through CAE predict, reduce the cycle time, and then work certain, say, proof of concept. This is what currently we are doing. We are not going and directly selling, this is you have to use. How can we develop a project? We will show you the concept first, how it is proven through CAE, those kind of things. Then we look in totality, how from the process, how the cost can be taken out, how much steel can be taken out in the total system. So our mindset change, because this is not component versus component, it's how the performance versus the value or cost. So that way we also look, so that OEMs are also open to take the technology. I feel they are also under tremendous pressure because of competition. But I think the competitions is also not on the same level, because the lowest cost may not be the best safe vehicle, but somewhere we have to make balance. And let this responsibility is for each of us.
Right. Mr. Verma, I want to press you a little bit more on this, affordability. So, we've seen this mandate coming from the government regarding the 6 airbags. So, you being in the product development, so do you think that there are solutions wherein you can offer OEMs a certain solution to reinforce the structure of a vehicle to be able to accommodate those 6 airbags at a cost effective, in the right cost, so that the price increment for the end consumer is not that much that it completely, does away with the affordability quotient for that customer for a particular car?
Yeah, those solutions are coming, and we are into those kind of solutions. We know whole body vehicle is spot welded, and just imagine, and maybe many vehicle you have seen on the road, when the accident happened, the vehicle collapse like anything, say crumple, collapse. There's something when the force comes at the frontal or side, there are say 40 spot weld. 2 spot weld will broken, the load will be on 38, then 35, 30. It's a self catalytic failure. So that's why the vehicle structure collapse. So what we are proposing is structural bonding, where the structural adhesive will absorb those load. So structural integrity is there. So the vehicle will take the higher load, as I said, very predictable. So why air like this safety, those kind of things? Because vehicle collapse and there's no predictable deformation. When it is unpredictable, so as a driver, I really do not know whether there is a time for balloon to open and protect me, because there has to be very defined, predictable deformation in the vehicle. So we have a lot of structural adhesives are coming. There will be demand furthermore, because multiple substrate bonding. When aluminum will come, then will be difficult to spot weld aluminum and steel. That's why the bonding solutions are coming more and more. Composite, plastic. So crash resistance adhesive. I will not be able to take the name, but the best car, I think, whatever you see from say the Mahindra or Tata or even, they have those kind of solution. And you have seen the video now, I can say video from Mahindra, they were explaining how a structural bonding has really prevented their structure. Mr. Velu Swami, in one of the in public domain, this video is available, so I can really talk about that. He was really explaining how bonding has really helped him to design a better vehicle, use of high strength steel which cannot be welded through. So those kind of solutions we are bringing in the market.
Right, Mr. Verma. Mr. Giri, I'll come to you. I believe forum that in this panel that there's a trend of Indian OEMs and OEMs in general now, upping their ante in terms of designing and developing more. So what do you think? I mean, even after, despite the vehicles getting safer, still we are seeing accidents, we are seeing fatalities on the road. So what is the outcome of your analysis of these data points? What are the reasons now which are still leading to these accidents on the roads, and how can they be prevented further?
The point is here, as we see, this is the question which comes from the top layer to the bottom layer. What is the reason of the accidents, and what is the outcome of accident research data output? The point is, the question is, like, we have to be very specific. Like, what is the outcome in terms of infrastructure? What is the outcome in front of driver behavior? What is the outcome in terms of vehicle safety? In the vehicle safety, is it the additional active safety, passive safety product, or the structural worthiness? Okay. But in nutshell, if I want to put it, I have seen close to 6,000 accidents in India, and I've seen all the OEM cars. Okay. I do not want to comment on the structural worthiness part, as PK Verma was already commenting. You need proper structure, everything. Out of my experience, I say that any car which is designed properly, when you have a front head-on collision or a 40% ODB as for NCAP, it has to deform and deflate, and the parts which is made to crash and make into pieces has to be done. Because whenever you see an accident, you see the car is smashed into full pieces in the front, where you have an outer bumper, inner bumper, and then you have a longer on, then you have a load carrying member. All this has to fail. That means 80% of the load is being taken in the frontal part of the car, and remaining the occupant, the cabin compartment or the cabin cage, what you call, there should not be even an of intrusion. This is what is called safety. Okay. When we see a car, a very hi-fi sophisticated car, without naming them, when you see a crash, frontal crash, you have a lot of parts which has been on the floor, and people say it's not a right design, but it is the right design, because it will carry most of the weights or load carrying member without even allowing to the occupant intrusion. So outcome of accident research, if you ask, we generally do it in three verticals. One is on the infrastructure. Okay. When I want to give you an idea of infrastructure, because for us, what is infrastructure? Paying a nice road could be any agency would do with a toll booth, and there is no potholes. It has to be clean, and you need to have nice pots and flowers on the medians, and you have some barricades. Is it scientifically designed? Is my question. Okay. The point is, in our case, 80% of the accident which happened are mainly because of the improper scientific infrastructure design roads. Okay. For example, you have a concrete pole on the right or the left of the road, which has a demarcation for the end of the road. When you have a loss of control of a car, already the vehicle is moving. So for you example, if I say the car is moving in this direction, he sees some obstacle and then he takes a right turn. That means he makes an oversteering mechanism. That means the vehicle will lose its control and go and hit. The point is, when you have a concrete barrier as a demarcation, this is a wrong scientific design where you have the vehicle comes and hits to this particular pole. This is a point impact. This initiates the roll. That means you are making the crash more severe. And then the roll initiate, if he's buckled, probably he's saved. If it's not buckled, no chance. He's fatal on the spot. Yeah, we have seen many cases like that. Now, why do they implement such kind of a thing? Because we still follow age-old 1980s IRC books, which is designed for 30-40 km per hour, where the vehicle cannot go more than 50 kph 20-30 years back, right? Now it has to be upgraded. So such kind of black spots is identified in our study, and we have already published a lot of data on this, specifically for infrastructure. When it comes to drive human behavior, so human behavior, again, you have to take two things. One is the person who's driving the car, the person who is outside the car. The person who's driving the car, for example, I'll give you the same example. Most of you drive car or a two-wheeler. You see an obstacle, what we generally do? We generally try to steer left or right and avoid. And we try to brake at the last resort, right? But when you compare to the Europe, you get around 63% of the people only brake. Okay, we have only 12 to 15% of people who steer. You see a difference. It's exactly reverse in India. Why? Because in Europe or Western world, you do not have a concept of lane change. When you're right or left, you have a lane empty. Still, the person stands on the same lane and wait for the car in the front to move. But in India, you have a totally different behavior, no matter which car you drive. Now, the technology is designed for that particular behavior of a human who's sitting and driving an European car. Whereas in India, you have a steering mechanism, not a braking mechanism, right? Now you need a right product for this. And this is what are the products which we try to identify. And we have a gamut of around 30, 40 plus ADAS products and AS products, which will assist such kind of situations on the driver behavior front. Now, when I take vulnerable road users on the other side, vulnerable road users, for example, we'll take classic example of pedestrians. When I did around 350 pedestrian accident analysis, I was discussing this with my German counterpart, and I saw 28% of the accidents of pedestrian happened because the pedestrian was standing in the middle of the road. Non-Europeans or Western world people or as scientists from US or Germany cannot understand why a person will stand in the middle of a road. So common question to all the spectators: when you are crossing a road, how do you cross? You cross the road, stand in the middle, you leave the waste to either side of the vehicle, and then you try left and right, then do some circus in between, then you cross the road. This is a typical behavior. Now I need a product to align this particular thing rather than identifying or copying the technology from outside. So this is on the behavior front. On the vehicle side, there are three things again. The outcome could be directly identifying what is the right product, by identifying different patterns of accidents, by identifying a pre-crash scenarios, or also identifying the structural worthiness, where you have the modern technologies, as Verma sir was talking about, adhesives and replacing spot weldings and other stuff, and bringing up a right product for the car. So NCAP, in this connection, whatever adhesives I could quickly connect is that is going to help really into NCAP, because we are going to get the global NCAP standards of 40% ODB, offset deformable crash on a frontal crash for a car at 64 kph, not 56, sorry, 64 kph. In that case, your structural worthiness has to be in a proper dimension where there should not be any cabin intrusion. This can be achieved only by putting more material into it, where your vehicle become heavy, or by changing it to a different methodologist, like Verma sir was talking about, adding like composite materials, wherein your structural materials is still integrated, still you have no cabin compartment intrusions. I think Manika sir also can throw some light on how exactly they do the testing of these things, where even every injury criteria with a dummy body is kept and identified whether this is going to help or not. So I just touched upon all the different outcomes of the RASI outcome as a whole.
Right. I mean, that's really, wonderful to hear that, this four-pronged approach that you adopt while analyzing all these, the accidents that happen on the roads. Mr. Manikar, are you there? Yeah. So, you would have heard Mr. Verma and Mr. Giri, we've been talking about, the road accident research from Giri, and, some of the developmental areas from Mr. Verma. So, I want to understand from you, we're talking here about, we're focusing on affordability or engineering affordable solutions. So in terms of, testing and validation, so what do you think, where have we come in terms of, having the capability of locally validating the products that are required for the Indian market?
Yeah. Mr. Mayank, you have asked very good question, even to Mr. Verma. I must appreciate that you've been very meticulous in asking. So on update from testing side, we are doing a lot of international level testing today in India. I am very proud to say that we have conducted more than 800 plus crash tests in the laboratory in Pune and Chakan. And not only one OE, everywhere from global OEs also we have done the testing, pre and cap testing. And testing and validation for passive safety is not an issue at all for us. Not only that, other sides also on the structural durability. Practically, we have done the complex of the testing with maybe 22 actuators simultaneously working on a complex loading, or also the chassis of the metro and chassis of the global trucks and other things. So there is, I would say that whatever can be done elsewhere in the world in Europe, we could expect that it is majority of that would be possible here. I won't say that all, because some of the resources we have not invested yet, but the time is not far. If there is a need, we have to import some of the things. As you see that crash dummies are some of the things which are very expensive, and every now and then new regulations come and we need to update our library for the crash. And for Indian and European regulation, we are actually ready for that. But for the other markets, some of the dummies we would require to be imported. Apart from that, we are ready with the very good simulation capabilities at ARAI. Together with the testing and simulation, we have a very powerful, frugal way of validating the things. Today, for example, I will give an example. For a bus rollover, physical rollover of the bus is no more required, because we have a validated models of CAE, which have used the inputs from the basic testing and fed it back into the program. So the programs are very, very powerful and proven, and that such things are possible in many areas. So CAE and together with the testing, it is one of the good ways for optimizing the cost for product development and simultaneous engineering. Apart from that, we are also focusing on a very good competency in materials, lightweight materials, because of the EVs. We also have an excellence center for EVs. Practically, you can do majority of the battery vehicle tests here, including the crash tests. Our standards are at par with Europe. We could test the EV and hybrid electric vehicles in our laboratory. As a matter of fact, we have tested number of such models which are flying on Indian roads. And it's a little different way of different breed of vehicle. We must have to understand that the safety will be redefined on the road again with a lot of electric vehicle flying on. And we have to also understand their typical behavior and fire sensitivity to the thermal propagation and stuff like that, which we have not experienced on a road as such. In a controlled laboratory condition, it's a different ball game altogether. But we have to be prepared for such things, how to mitigate such and douse such thing if anything happens like that.
Right.
So that's a combined learning. Right. But as a matter of testing, I would say that we are at par with many of the European tests could be done here. We can always check whether it is possible here, and then only you can tap there. Practically, we are absolutely ready for the Bharat NCAP. I would be happy to launch, do the launch testing anytime, whenever it is required by Government of India. Apart from that, we have very good databases. All Indian road data, Indian material data, Indian anthropometry data for more than 6,000 driving population. So this will become a very powerful tool for any optimization of design. And we are prepared to work with all the stakeholders, whether it's OE, component manufacturer, technology provider, or for that matter, anybody. We're quite open on that, and our teams are very, very focused on their way, and we are doing a lot of global work also, apart from our local one.
Right.
Thank you.
Mr. Manikar, you mentioned that, safety is going to be, sort of redefined with electric vehicles coming in, and I'll take that to Mr. Verma. But I want to ask you a couple of questions. EVs, they are coming, but there's still time in when we actually see the market getting flooded with EVs. What about CNG? CNG is still a very popular, fuel option which has already taken up in India. So if you can shed some light upon the overall crash testing, phenomenon for CNG cars. Do they also go through that rigorous testing which a normal petrol or a diesel car would go?
Yeah, you asked again a very good question, very close to my heart, because we always been asking how we will address this for the NCAP rating. Today for type approval, yes, we do crash test the CNG and LPG cars also. And LPG is not practically not there now, not much of that. But CNG cars, and we found that good safety is already built in for a CNG vehicles. Nothing to worry on these aspects. Definitely, for any leakages of CNG post crash, there are stringent norms available, because we are talking about the norms which are at par with the hydrogen kind of a scenario, and we have also built the capability to analyze this. But of course, yes, we need to build on NCAP rating for the CNG kind of vehicles and EVs also, which is today not so much focused on a global NCAP rated cars. You would see they have not picked up CNG and EV vehicles. And in Bharat NCAP, we will definitely address this gap. How? Because this is a more local issue rather than any of the global issue. But the standards per se for building the CNG and laying layouts of the CNG, they are very robust and at par with any of the international norms. So nothing to worry. If somebody is wanting to buy CNG, can definitely go ahead and buy. Not much of an uncertainty or unknown areas of work. Of course, due diligence and due care has to be taken for everything what we do.
Right.
Understand.
Mr. Verma, I'll come to you, with electric vehicles. So, Mr. Manikar said that, safety is going to be sort of redefined with EVs coming in. So again, your thoughts from a technical perspective, being in the product development space. So what is going to change when EVs come in with respect to safety? We're talking here about battery safety, the safety of the cells. And in the last couple of months, we've seen a spate of fires in electric two-wheelers per se. So, how do you see the evolution of safety going forward when we talk about specifically EVs?
Yeah, good. So there are two things with the way the battery layout is put on the floor, below the floor, or it is designed. Currently on the Nexon and the current platform, it just put it there, but not really floor designed for that. So me as a product development, we look in two ways what we're going to change. One is protect battery, additional to protect the whole vehicle structure. And then there is an additional, some 500 to 800 kg. I'm taking average towards the higher side. The weight is being added. So first of all, crash behavior of the vehicle will change, because earlier the engine was there. So the load or center of gravity was different. If frontal crash, the vehicle will perform differently. Now if this whole load or weight is distributed across floor, so more rollover kind of behavior change is there in the vehicle. So with this behavior, first of all, from the safety perspective, roof and pillars were never looked in that way, but they are the most weakest, I will say, the link, because everyone reinforced the front, the B pillar, those kind of thing. As such, weight is there, so there naturally some protection is there. Roof is highly unsupported or not even look in that way. which will change in certain aspect of simulation of the vehicle behavior will change. So this is the vehicle behavior changes. So the extent of the say A pillar, B pillar, all we are put say they will look into the safety perspective, but roof as such now being looked in a differently. Battery as such is a big, because then a lot of say the focus is there how to design the rocker panel, because that is the only, I will say, a kind of production window which indirectly touch with the battery pack or whole cell. So a lot of say the aluminum and lot weight, because everyone want to design, but adding weight is no more say a good innovation or invention in protecting, adding more higher increasing thickness or different layer of say the reinforcement. So a lot of aluminum solutions are being looked after how to design. Many OEM, they have patented that. Tesla has certain way of designing the rocker panel, VW, and here also, and across industry they are buying or copying or taking that technology and doing this. I cannot name here in India, but yes, the most maximum focus is there. So whether aluminum, if aluminum is there, the complex design, the cost as such is very high. So we look how to simplify that design. As I told, we have certain structural solutions are born incorporate. So from the design perspective, designing cell is the most focus area for any vehicle to protect. These vehicles are not differently designed currently. There is no need also. Only how to integrate this battery pack whole. So that's one technology, the bonding, then floor, like ensuring better integrity is there. Then again come welding, mechanical joining, or adhesive bonding technology, preventing from the side crash, or to the extent some solution from the frontal. But again relook, because earlier engine was there, that was adding to certain extent, because weight, you cannot avoid that weight. That was changing the crash behavior. So now OEMs are looking, because that front is now open. So how to reinforce that, right. They are looking, but batteries is protected. So the only design prospect is changing how to look the front design. The more concern is being put in differently design the rocker, where we are also just looking in that way. And in some 500, 800 kg, OEMs are now very serious to reduce weight. Now very serious. At the end, what they can really afford with conventional fuels, there will be a lot of competition, unpredictability if they add weight and they have battery. And then,
Mr. Verma, you mentioned that battery is sort of relatively safer because, it's placed down in the floor. But, what about sharing? We've seen instances overseas where when the car is going at a high speed, a Tesla is going at a very high speed, and the battery just shares away, even if there's a small rock on the road.
So sorry if I sounded like safe. It is different. I told different, because from the vehicle rollover or crash behavior, I say the vehicle crash behavior is changing because of the battery, but no more making safe. So they like the damage will be there. So more protection is there. That's why we are sitting in the live bomb kind of situation. With battery is there. If that explode or some collision happen, and the technology or issue, any kind of chemical, because that's a chemical highly reactive component, high powered chemical reactive is there, which can be really like breakaway or so more concern is being put to how to protect that. So vehicle structure may still will remain the same. The focus is more how to protect battery is there.
Could you also
vehicle behavior is changing, so that's why people are thinking to reinforce roof also. How to look the frontal crash, engine is not there, because battery is there, but at the frontal crash is there, the battery will come less, I will come first kind of situation.
Correct. Could you also shed a little bit more light on the scope of improvement which is there in the electric two-wheelers? Because, there, especially we've seen a lot of fire incidences, things happening. So, from that point of view, do you think not just, if not talking from a crash point of view, but from an overall, ambient temperature and that perspective, do you think, there is still scope for, trying out different chemistries maybe?
Yeah, it is there, but maybe because of, again, affordability or cost factor you have said. When we have this kind of thermal management is very much important when the battery comes. This itself is a big, I will say, a lot of, at this moment, we have only few expertise available to really do CAE on thermal management of the battery. So everything is depend upon the physical. So there will be a lot of heat generation, how to absorb, dissipate that heat is there. So a lot of solutions are available, which will bond also, and then thermal management, thermal pads, a lot of different technology out there. We have taken over a company who was very expert in thermal management, Burquest. So expertise is available. And in automotive, that is the most, I will say, now safety has come, but from the battery efficiency itself, is battery is heated, this is losing its power kind of situation. There's a loss of power, stored power, loss of stored power, because then that energy is either heat or kinetic energy in the cell, or not used for the battery, but used dissipated because that energy. So focus was there from the efficiency, but I think again, the India being more specific, the scooter and those kind of things, India is being popular. And now we have seen, maybe now the two-wheelers and owners and those kind of people might be considering that they have to really. So there are solutions available like thermal dissipation, which really absorb. You cannot avoid, but you have to separate them, and so that the heat generation is not there. It is contained within the cell. So there is no dissipation or loss of that. Those solutions are available. The thermal management is a big topic in chemical or the people like us. So first is to how to seal proper so that leakage of power is not there, how to insulate, isolate, so that the heat generation is not the building up, and that the chemical stored energy is only used for the driving of the vehicle, not heat loss in any other way.
Right. Sure. We'll switch to taking questions from the audience, and I'll come to you first, Mr. Giri. Mr. Ajit Babu, who has a question, and he says that the Indian road conditions and behaviors are different from most of the other parts of the world. So are we devising testing standards or regulations to meet domestic challenges? I think this applies to both you as well as I'll take this to Mr. Manikar as well. Okay, I believe there's some network issue and we've lost Mr. Giri. Mr. Manikar, would you want to take that question, please?
Yeah, it is always a good question that are we making the standard based on our own data? To the extent, yes, but we cannot wait for everything to be available in a plate and then only I will make the vehicles and then only I will solve the transportation problem. So there are some assumptions we have to go on. And as we demyst the things, we will become more and more robust and better. For example, some of the accident data is showing that sometimes we might have over-designed the vehicle, and sometimes our kind of load cases are different than the European load cases, which we over a period of time might have to correct it. For example, I will give an example that the underrun accidents, typical underrun accidents in trucks. We found that for India, it is a very important safety feature which can prevent the fatality. And it was a high priority item and we did it quite time ago. But the next job is, this is like a fuse, it is saved somebody's life when car has tried to hit it from the rear. And this deformed structure has saved the life of the car. But who will replace it? The next question is, who will replace it? The deformed structure needs to be replaced by the truck fleet owner, and for the colliding partner's safety, he has to keep on doing it. So it has still to have an ecosystem ready available with the insurance system where any such thing can be immediately replaced, and we don't see any deformed underrun devices anywhere on the truck. And if we see it, we must get a picture and send it to the authorities so that there is a constant pressure to increase the fine for such thing, because they can save the life sometimes. So yes, we are taking, for example, we have taken the good. No, why this one? I will quote an example for Indian driving population data. Even we used it for setting the global technical regulation, because we said that we are a big market. Your products will come to our market. So please look at our data, and our headrest must be suitable to our conditions. So global technical regulation also, while in UNEC, they accepted the data and they said that, yes, we do understand your concern, and they made the provision for our kind of anthropometry in the global technical regulation for headrested GTR number 7. So such things are there. But yes, the question is, are we using every opportunity to do that? I will say that no. Yes, still we have to do a lot of work, and we should be open for making standards with our own inputs. And Giri,
Right.
had he would been there, he would have also told a lot of inputs from accident data
Yeah.
can be used for intervening into the standards.
Sir, I'm back.
Yeah,
Yes,
Giri.
Giri.
So Giri, would you want to add to that?
I just missed the question because I'm in a hotel. I'm not able
Right.
to connect it
So,
proper.
I
But
mean,
we can
had
take
a
the next
question.
point if you won't
Yeah.
mind.
So I'll take the next question to you. I mean, it's from Mr. Rahul Bhojak. So basically, he's asking that, do you think we can control accidents by, preempting an accident, using a camera or a radar system? So I think he's hinting at an ADAS system in that sense. So can you really prevent accidents? What is going to be the effectiveness on Indian roads of these, high technology solutions?
So my question is why ADAS? Well, first of all, we have the existing active safety systems. First of all, like ABS, brakes, and airbags. First, let these things come to the market of Indian specifications. Then you can get into ADAS. The point is implementation rate. If you look at ABS, is slowly picking. Now it's up to 50% after legislation. When you look at ESP, it's around 32%. Okay. So first, it's kind of we are jumping from one technology directly to some technology which is available in Europe, which is not the right thing to do. But if you want me to talk about ADAS, since my team develops a lot of ADAS, I can talk hours together on this topic. But for India, ADAS technology, we are too early at this point of time. Camera technologies, radar technologies, ultrasonics, LiDARs, all these things are the best and effective way for autonomous driving L1, L2, L3, and up to L5 systems, which has been developed. But at this point in time, we just have to concentrate mainly on the available technology and the existing technology. And also, as Manika sir also developed a right NCAP for the safety regulated topic, this has to be compliant for the next, I think, the mid and maybe up to 5 to 8 years in time. Then we can talk about ADAS technology in future.
Sure. I'll move to the next question from Mr. Amit Kumar Tiwari. I think this is directed to Mr. PK Verma. So by design, the base of an EV has all the weight of the battery in a car. So is it possible that it is more dangerous as the accident is more likely to be fatal for passengers due to the inertia in an electric vehicle?
Not really, because you see, we have to really see what is, first of all, I think Mr. Giri Kumar also mentioned that car is designed to take the load and diffuse the impact. So there are certain design in element which really take all the shock and load and protect passenger. Now this is the good design. Car cannot be too stiff, or in case the weight is inertia or stiff, so that it will really, it's a kind of shock will be of different kind. But before that, when we say the sill will be designed in a such a way that you take the load and diffuse, rather than the load comes to next to the passenger. So whole or this, that cannot be designed too stiff also. So there are certain crushable part. They have to play their role. So it is designed in that way. Weight inertia will play in a different role, how the vehicle will roll out. But you see, the entire floor will not really allow as a passenger me to really like take some force or load, but vehicle has to be designed in some way, the sill, the pillar, the frontal part, so that all the deformation happen. In that case, maybe the counter force of a different kind, which comes from the weight, but that will play more at very, very high speed. The vehicle will jump, then vehicle will roll. So that behavior will change. That will make me as unsafe, because roof is highly unsupported.
Right.
So that are being taken care of. Crushable members are there. They are designed in such like always high strength is not a good solution, because or make vehicle stiff is not a good solution. Inertia, I'll take that vehicle making stiff, but that will change the rollover behavior. But they are putting a lot of the sill, as I told, is the best, because that is the first thing which will get impacted where the battery is there. So though design is taken care of, so that really battery has very less role to play if this is protected nicely, and protected in the sense that deformation happen before any intrusion really happen. Intrusion is prevented both in terms of time and distance. Time is also important, so that your air balloon will protect you. It should not be sudden. So deformation has to be slow or time bound and distance bound. This is the way our crash, if we see the improvement is better. Suppose in 20 seconds, deformation is happening, it has to delay to 25 seconds, slow deformation collapse if 20 seconds is not okay, and then distance also. That way, then this battery and this will be, I'll say, irrelevant of those. If this is not happening and then direct it on the battery, then first the battery will collapse on whatever the thing will happen before anything, and then maybe as a passenger I'm not safe. It's just too sudden, too stiff, then both way it is going to affect us.
Right, right. Giri, I'll come to you
just
with
an
one more
add-on
question.
point
Yeah,
to Amaji
please.
on the crash, since he touched upon the closest topic to my heart. The crash deformation is not 20 seconds, sir. It's less than 40
I'm just giving
milliseconds.
example. Just example. Just example.
So airbag balloon will
Yeah,
open.
just giving examples as a reference. Yeah.
40 millisecond is like once you blink an eye is 600 milliseconds. So it happens within a blink of an eye.
Yeah. So I thought for the general audience, it will be good.
Thank you.
Right. Giri, I'll take one question to you. Do you have any data points wherein, there's a difference between the nature of an accident in a manual transmission vehicle and an automatic transmission vehicle? Do you think an automatic is a lot more safer compared to a manual? Do you have any data to support that?
No, currently, I should acknowledge that we haven't had a thought on identifying manual versus automatic, and possibly I'll take this point to do a further research in the next conclave. Probably I can share the data. I do not have this moment.
Sure. So I think we'll take the final question from Mr. More. So it is his question is, does driver fatigue contribute to the accident? If so, is there any regulation for clutch and gear change in case of commercial vehicles?
Mm-hmm. So I think I will just start with a little bit of data. I think Manikar sir can add a little bit more on this topic. So driver fatigue is one of the biggest problem in India. When we do an analysis on driver behavior, specifically for commercial vehicle, again, I have to divide this into commercial vehicle, passenger cars, and two-wheelers. Of course, two-wheelers are also getting fatigue because now of this, what do you say, the POS delivery systems like Zomatos and Swiggy's, which is running around. But for example, I'll take a commercial vehicle as an example. When I did an analysis of a crash of commercial vehicles in 2019, we found close to 22% of accidents happened just because of a driver fatigue. That means driver is driving from point A to point B overnight, and he is clocking more than 14 to 15 hours of driving because they are not getting proper sleep, they're not getting proper food, they're not getting proper parking space in India. That's a problem. Now, this driver fatigue is not only a problem for the driver who is driving the truck, but it is a problem for the people who are outside the truck as well. For a simple instance, I can give you is that a truck which is plying on a highway, which is parked in the middle of an highway itself. Okay, half the undivided lane, if you see that half of the lane is occupied by the parked truck. A car which is coming at say 100, 150, 120 kph on the highway does not know whether the truck is parked, because the truck driver would have parked and gone to eat some rotis in dabas or have some chai on the other side of the road. Then it has a direct underride of a vehicle. Underride are the most serious, dangerous accidents where no safety system can save people, because the point of impact of the underride is directly to the A pillar, which directly hits the head of an people. So again, the point is sleep fatigue is the major problem for India. And we have been discussing about this topic, and we have also brought this topic to many of the ministries and lawmakers to regulate something like European system, where you have a clock card where you have to put it on the steering wheel, and it allows you to clock only 4 hours. After that, you need a mandatory 1 hour break and then take another 4 hours for another week. So every driver has to only drive for 8 hours, not more than that. In India, we do not have such system because people play from one area to another area overnight, and next day morning, again, they take the load, again, they come back. This is going to create too much of mess in the overall fleet management and CV system. Currently, with my knowledge, I don't see any regulation which is coming in place to control this kind of fatigue systems. Okay, I think definitely this has to be there in the near future for at least commercial vehicles to start with. Then we can follow with passengers and two-wheelers.
Right. Mr. Manikar, would you want to add to that? I mean, is there some sort of a roadmap for such a regulation?
Duty cycle measurement has been done for the typical bus user or a truck user, and under Sweden-India joint program, very good data has been collected. What is a typical behavior of a driver during early hours of working and then later hours of working, what is his physical parameters, even blood pressure, all other things are getting tabulated. Maybe it's still not gone to a stage where we can regulate it, because we need a broader guideline how to do that. But I feel that some duty hours definitely will be one point of time, as Giri was saying, that few hours of running and then gap and few hours of running, that is likely to come with more and more data collected on such event recorders.
Right, right. I think some startups are also working on similar relay models as well for truck drivers in India. So maybe those things also, help drivers get better sleep, better rest, and they're able to. I mean, you
As
just
a
do away with the
proactive
driver
measure, some
fatigue.
of the fleet owners, who are owning the large fleet have done their own research, and they are
Right.
providing their own inputs as their own conditions of service. But yes, we have to learn from that also and bring it to a more regulatory perspective.
Right.
The final thought here is it has to be attacked again with three factors. Number one factor is to give a proper parking place. All the ministries of road and highway transport has to provide them a proper parking space at different intervals, not putting some stalls in that parking places. Okay. And the second thing, the driver has to know himself that he should not overdrive the vehicles. And number three, there should be effective vehicle safety systems to integrate such kind of an overviews of vehicle which has been done. Again, if you see, this kind of instances can be avoided by, again, three factors, not only by one factors. I think everything put in place, definitely this system can be solved, and it is one of the major problem in India for sure.
Right. With that, gentlemen, we've completely run out of time, and I'd like to thank you once again. Thank you for being here. Thank you for the panel discussion, Mr. Verma, Giri, and Mr. Manikar. Thank you so much. I think the audience would have really enjoyed it, and thank you for taking all these questions from our audience as well. So I hope it was a really insightful conversation, and we learned a lot from it. And until next time, I thank you again, and have a good day.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mayank. You have been wonderful. In fact, making a balance and right focus on the questions and precipitating the right answer. Thanks. And thanks, Giri and Mr. Manikar, having you with us.
Thank you, sir, for nice company on the panel now.
Yeah.
It's also always privilege to be with Manikar sir and also Verma sir. Thank you very much.
He's Beast Pitama.
At least we have a pleasure of meeting on a panel. So the frequent meetings have not been taking place, but we must thank Mayank for bringing us together.
Correct.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you.
Autocar Pro and Mayanak, thanks for a good effort for bringing all the eminent panelists on this group.
Pleasure.
Any questions, of course, we are available on LinkedIn, and
yes.
my mail ID is with you.
Yes, absolutely. I think the audience can reach out to the panelists on LinkedIn. So thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, and have a great day, and happy conference.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
So with that, we'll move to the next session, which is going to be a technical presentation. And I would like to hand it over to my colleague, Amit Mohile. Amit, over to you now.
Yeah, thanks, Mayank. I think it's been a good day, and we are on day 2 of Autocar Professional Vehicle Safety Conclave. Our associate partner is a Continental and technology partner, Henkel. I think I'm really glad that we are taking pushing the envelope on safety, and we have got very good participation from a panelist. Todd Morgan, CTO of Lumax, shared that Indian OEMs may be different from Indian OEM specification may be different from global standards, but our products do meet the Indian market regulations. Mr. Manikar said that Jogard will not work, but India is ready for B and CAP. I think that's a very big statement, that we are ready for B and CAP. Mr. P.K. Verma, commercial head of Henkel, also shared very interesting views that we need to develop local competency in development of safety and lightweight solutions for safety. And Mr. Giri Kumar said a lot of things regarding the truckers and how the standards have to come so that the accidents have to reduce. I think he also shared about the new vehicles that we are coming. They should have 80% of load so that the frontal part is not is taken care of and documents, lives are saved. So now we move to a technical presentation, which is very important to understand how material science knowledge will fully optimize vehicle component design and development to give more passive safety to the passenger. The technical presentation will be done by Mr. Abhijit Barua, Technical Engineering Manager, IMA Henkel. Mr. Barua has more than 14 years of experience in the automotive industry. Its current focus is on designing lightweight solutions to meet crash and NVH requirements in automobiles. For Henkel, he's also been overseeing the markets for Middle East and Africa, besides India. I hand it over to you, Mr. Barua, and you can start your presentation and share more light on how you plan to take the safety further for all of us.
Thanks, Amit. Thank you. I'll just share my screen. Okay. I think I need to move. Okay. Okay, my screen is visible, right? Amit? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, you're visible.
Visible, right? Thank you. So, good afternoon, everyone. So, India is one of the most emerging markets and most important as well, with tremendous growth opportunities for the structural portfolio. So, today's presentation talks about Henkel, current trends, and how Henkel is committed to Made in India drive, and how the structural solution plays a role in the current electrification or lightweighting scenario. So we are a $20.1 billion company with active in more than 79 countries with 24 major R&D sites around the world, committed to inclusion and sustainability. Out of all the 4 industrial units that we had, the one that I belong to is the automotive and metals, which comprise around 22%, which handles all the automotive OEMs and the components, component manufacturers as well. And we are number 1 worldwide with respect to portfolio as well as business. Key trends in body shop. So electrification is a key trend. How the battery weight or the weight that would be added extra, and because of the electrification drive to meet the CO2 emission target, and to offset that battery weight, lightweighting will become one of the prima facie dependent characteristics. And to maximize this weight reduction, it requires optimized design using various multi-materials, various joining technologies, and also and in various forms. So without compromising on the safety and the other functional norms. So how does Henkel create value through its transformative solutions? So the current industry trends, which is the mobility, connectivity, sustainability, and the urbanization. These industry trends, we connect it through our customized engineering solutions, through our global state-of-the-art innovation centers, closely located to the OEM centers, and then using our know-how and the industry insights to create a strong and unique customer base, focusing on technologies, applications, footprint, and also as well as digitalization, which is the engineering translation of the current situation. So when we talk about portfolio, when I say broad, so we cater from the body shop to the paint shop till the general assembly. So we have products which cater to the structural part as well as the NVH part, sealing, body leak, water wading, as well as the paint shop tapes and other anti-vibration or the damping solutions that we have in our portfolio. So when we talk about Made in India drive, so we also talk about building our competency. So from a technology competence, so we have our product development center in Pune, Hinjewadi, which is proximity to almost 11 application centers that we have, and to the major OEM industry hubs. We have more than 1,000 customer-facing technical sales engineers in this. Global product application and development teams connected worldwide. We have a global key account management network as well as an including design centers in all the major regions. So this technology center is responsible for development of new portfolios for all this technology that we have: Loctite, Terrazone, Bondurite, Technomel, Techvent. So moving from product development to the engineering aspects, so what can how do we differentiate here is all the new technology that we developed has also looked into in terms of developing the engineering material cards that is required to do the CAE or the technical analysis, including in-house correlation and validation, etc. And once we do this, once we have that correlated model that can be run in a vehicle to analyze the performance required, the testings or the validations can also be done in-house, which includes 3D printing validation. And then we also have a acoustic center built into that product development center that I showed you, including we have mobile testing setups like body leak behavior and others. So what all this does is it accelerates the product development timeline through prototyping, adhesive selections, testing, trials, equipment, on-site support. So all of these facilities helps us to speed up all these requirements that brings about with lightweighting. Moving to the next. So the PD center that I've showed you also in-houses an anechoic chamber as well as a reverberation chamber, which can be used for various validation of the various simulation evaluations for the products, especially the acoustics one, and also the component level testing, wherein we can differentiate between the in-lab testing and the in-field testing, as well as the material testing correlation. So you can see on the table where different technologies and products and what kind of parameters we can measure, including vehicle testings as well can be done in this. So for the various reinforcement products, anti-vibration pads or the structural solutions, we can do the various loss factor analysis and the dynamic stiffness. And then for products which are used for sealing or leakage prevention, we can do the noise reduction or the absorption coefficient, as well as the transmission loss and the other insulation properties. So this facility brings in a synergy of the material science and the engineering. So herein I'm talking about local facility here. The next is also in 2018, we formed a partnership with an engineering service provider called RLE, which the intent is to combine the material science knowledge with the engineering expertise, especially body engineering expertise, to fully optimize the vehicle component development and design, and which helps us to determine how to deliver the lightweight design with the highest level of performance and safety using advanced structural solutions, especially inserts, patches that I'll talk about in the coming slides. Where do we use this and how we see this trend? Henkel Solutions. So the trends of structural inserts are increasing globally, especially lightweighting, improved crash, like battery protection, roof crush, lightweighting, door impingement in rocker, NVH stiffness, crash targets. What do we offer from a material portfolio? So different custom design product portfolios depending on the requirement and the necessity to improve without adding any weight to the vehicle. Second, design and engineering. So we dedicated engineers based in the automotive OEM premises who can work jointly to develop these kind of capabilities, and then simulation capabilities for the crash and NVH side. Yeah, then currently all the major OEMs in India are using our setups, our capabilities, our material cards validation, and then we do custom validations as per the OEM requirement, because each vehicle validation has certain criteria built in. So that kind of validation or the evaluation criteria can be translated down to our material design as well. Now I talk about our structural portfolio. So when we talk about structural, there are three sections to it. One is structural adhesives, which is basically to improve the integrity of the vehicle regions. So adhesives improve the integrity of any joinery by around 20-25%, resulting in better failure modes, better bond behavior, and can be used in conjunction with existing spot weld system. The other is the reinforcement or structural tapes. So they improve the help to down gauge steel outer sheet metals without compromising on the buckling behavior or the denting behavior. So the engineering translation is capable for this. And then we have the structural inserts, which improves the integrity of the vehicle region that need reinforcement from bending, crippling, buckling of the section. So redesigning the vehicle architecture to achieve optimal performance at the lowest weight possible with this solution. So talking about structural bonding, so it's important. This is not something very new, but this is an evolution of what has been happening in this industry for more than 20 years. So they have always been used for ever, but the amount of confidence or the translation that has happened in adhesive designing is something that we see more. So if you see, there are two ways to look at it. One is process driven, the other is performance driven. So process includes areas where we have welding constraints, and then areas where designs are aerodynamic and and difficulty to put weldings or difficulty to assemble those kind of designs. And from a performance driven, started off with only the flange bonding area, and then slowly gradually promoted itself to areas where we have to improve the structural integrity or the crash. And then designing of adhesives happened, wherein where we look at the body rigidity or ride handling. So designed adhesives improve the ride handling by around 8 to 10% in this. And then now the new trend is to use adhesives where you have a damping effect as well, along with the stiffness improvement. So structural adhesive design often not only improve performance, but also can be leveraged by usage in the areas where we can have this engineering prediction. If I talk broadly on the type of material, so it's important is selection of the right material at the right place. So wherein you can see, if I plot a chart between toughness and fatigue, so where the crash adhesives go in, where we look at more durable adhesives, and then wherein we can look into where the damping type structural adhesives as well go in. When you talk about chemistry, so we have the stiffening types, which is only for stiffening and rigidity, cost competitive, and they're mostly used for the flange areas. And then we have the medium epoxy impact material, which tend to have high modulus but medium crash, and they are also beneficial in those areas where you need to improve the ride handling or the body torsional rigidity of the vehicle. And then we have the high crash resistance material used in areas where it is in direct line of the crash zone. They improve the collapsing behavior of the joinery. They don't actually make the joinery stiff. They just improve the collapsing behavior so that your structural integrity within that milliseconds is much improved than the other. So we always believe in having a differentiated and a performing portfolio. And all of these technologies that I'm talking about are being used in the current Indian automotive industry and are locally manufactured at our site. The next technology that I want to talk about is the structural reinforcement patches. So these are basically to improve the panel's dentability or oil canning. The intent of these patches is to use in those areas wherein you have a lightweight closure and you want to still keep the bending integrity of the part. So these patches can be custom designed as per requirement, as per joinery, and they improve your performance by 80 to 90% when you compare it with a 0.65 mm bare steel. So these patches are very lightweight by design, and they bond in the oven, bake oven, so that they form a composite-like system. So herein you can see every OEM has a very specific way of evaluating the soil canning. So depending on the requirement, we can evaluate, and then each of these evaluations we see close to 70 to 80% correlation between our simulation models and the physical models. So, and in fact, the physical models are much better performing that. On the right hand side, you can see a simulation wherein we designed a custom pad to improve the dentability of this area. So even in the first and second stages of vehicle design, this can be engineered to be the most efficient and lightweight solution. How do we do this from an engineering approach? So once we receive the model, the CAE model, we look at the analysis of the unreinforced area, and then we start off with a base patch design, and then we customize this patch design to a certain geometry, so that we can finally have a part which is ready to manufacture, and then does not create any includes all the manufacturing limitations or the process variations of the application that is required. So world-class engineering support even up to final solution with local design, development, and manufacturing. The last topic that I'm talking about is the structural inserts. So this is a composite carrier, a composite structure comprising of a reinforced carrier material, usually polyamide, which is lightweight and high performing, with partially epoxy based or the foam based material injection molded into this. And these parts, when in the bake ovens, they expand and bond to the structures. So the foam expands in the e-coat oven and creates a stiff connection between the hybrid structure and the other parts of the body in white. So compared to all metal platforms, these reinforcements offer design freedom, efficient processability, adapting each structure to the required geometry, and adding locally stiffening foam ribs precisely wherever needed. And in a right design at the right place, they have been proven to reduce BIW and closure weights more than 40 kg as well. And with the right design space frame, we can also optimize the joining elements as well. Here. Moving to the next slide. So you can see on the right hand side wherein each location, as per requirement, performance requirement, the insert is designed differently. These are some of the case studies that we have. So for rear crash, the target was weight reduction, keeping the same battery intrusion. We downgauge the design, replaced it with an insert, and the peak load was improved by around 20-25%, including the clipping behavior and also saving around 1.9 kg. Similarly, for commercial vehicles pendulum crash, wherein we designed this insert to improve the energy absorption, 29 to 36 kilojoule, and against 30 kg of steel, we required only 10 kg of insert here. Similarly, for all these design inserts are designed, custom designs in such a way wherein it meets all the frontal crash requirements. So different case studies we have, resulting in at least 15 to 20% lightweighting. In fact, sometimes more than that, depends on the area. So we have designed in solutions for each car body, which includes local design, development, and manufacturing. And the benefits of this structural insert is this: the steel reinforcing elements can be replaced with very lighter hybrid parts. So 7.8 density compared to a material which is only 1 in density, 1.3 in density. And this partial reinforcing effect is there because the design is done in such a way for the entire cross section, so that there is no hindrance to the e-coat flow in this part. So it's a hollow system, sometimes a hollow system, but still gives you that same amount of structural integrity that is required. Similarly, so we talked about crash. Similarly, these parts can also be designed in to improve the NVH and body rigidity, like resonance peak improvement or in-cab noise lowering, especially coming from areas where the design is already done and you cannot add weight more, add to the steel, but still need some noise improvement in this. Ride and handling, then lateral stiffness improvement, especially when riding at high speed. And these parts are designed in such a way so that there is a lowering of the complexity as well, because these are built to fit parts. So you have the part that you can assemble it directly, and we can build in all those fixation mechanisms, including clips, or if you can weld through there. And the nice side effect is it increases the comfort. The driving stability is increased, and also the vibration reduced due to stiffer BIW. And with combination with this Henkel acoustic product, this improves the noise in the passenger compartment as well. I made 2 slides on this. So we always talk.
There are some questions also coming, so I thought we'll have some time for 1 or 2 questions also.
Yeah. Okay. So thanks. So now determining the structural solutions in the advanced design phase. So we talk about different phases here. So advanced design phase is the point where we want the solutions to be there, where the least cost is invested and the most time is saved. And also in the development process, when structural solutions are used to fix the performance or problem or issue in the phase 3 or phase 4, so there is excess cost and time spent that would have been avoided altogether. So what we propose is integrating the solutions in the possible to integrate all these solutions in the advanced design phase, which addresses the root cause and also saves the cost as well. So need for made in India required, especially the early development process, advanced design partnership that we bring in through Mobility Alliance, especially looking at key areas of evaluation and design optimization, supported by our comprehensive structural portfolio that we have. And this helps to deliver an optimal vehicle body structure performance, enabling mass reduction. Yeah. Thank you. I can't hear you.
Sorry, I forgot to say that. Thank you so much. It's been a very good presentation from your side, and you have given us some very interesting insights. You spoke about adhesives and structural bonding, about new designs are saving cost on steel and ensuring that a crash load can also be reduced, granting more passive safety to the passenger. I have a relevant question from Mr. Ajit Babu, and he says, with sustainability being a key focus, especially more demand of reusability of material by ELV of vehicle, how do you see adhesive technology in this context? What are your comments on the adhesive technology in this context?
Yes, I think this is a very good question, because this will become, at this moment, various companies have talked about bonding, debonding on requirement, recycling all those adhesives. But at this moment, if you look at the global scenario, once we are talking about a bonded system. So once we have a bonded system in place, at this moment, the capabilities that all of us has, I think its recyclability is not there still.
Okay.
We may have partial recyclability, but yes, what I see as well, including Henkel being invested also, is to have that kind of systems in the future. So adhesive is not only about, it's not like a miracle product. It's a blend of different materials, composites, which makes it sustainable and all those things. So we have sustainable adhesives in other spheres, but I think automotives, I think we will be there, maybe not now.
So I really thank you for your time. I think it's been a very good presentation, and maybe we'll have you more for Autocar further conclaves where you can share more insights to us. I would now throw light to our next speaker, who's going to be joining us very shortly, Mr. Suresh KV, President of ZF India. And I welcome you to the Vehicle Safety Conclave, Mr. Suresh. And I think we all at Autocar are very glad that you have opened a new technology software hub, 30,000 square feet in Hyderabad. And that's expected to play a critical role in the growth and positioning of ZF Group globally and as well as in India. And It's going to create some lot of new opportunities, job opportunities, and act as a hub for advanced engineering projects in autonomous driving also. And I think that this goes very well with our subject that we are discussing today. And I hand over the floor to our consulting editor, Mr. Murli Gopalan, to help our viewers understand how ZF is taking the safety roadmap further. Over to you, Mr. Gopalan.
Thank you, Amit. Thanks.
Amit, thank you very, very much. And I hope I'm coming in clear.
Yeah,
Suresh,
I can
hi,
hear
Suresh.
you for sure.
Suresh, good evening. And to all our participants and viewers, I'd like you to meet Suresh KV, President and Regional Head for ZF in India. It just seems like yesterday, Suresh, when we had a chat on your tech center. And like Amit said, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
So it's been a very interesting 2 days on the issue of safety. And I thought it's only appropriate that I ask you, from a supplier's point of view, what truly are the thoughts that come to your head when you look at the challenges of safety, especially in a decade which everyone refers to as a disruptive one for mobility?
Thanks, Murli, and thanks for the opportunity for having a talk here. Safety is paramount, and we have been hearing about safety right from 80s and 90s when we were looking at the shop floor safety, which itself was a big, created some amount of turbulence, because if you look at the traditional Indian shop floors, safety was not a priority at those point in times. And then we came a long way where, goggles and safety, personal protective equipments became part and parcel of our day-to-day life. Now we are talking about road safety, and India, unfortunately, is on the wrong side or on the top list of the number of accidents and the casualties related to that. So it is more important, and it is very critical for us to look at safety, and rightly so. The government is also pushing a lot on these aspects. As a supplier, I can only be happy hearing that, because from a ZF perspective, one of our major product lines is active safety and passive safety components. And looking at the importance and the prioritization which the government is giving, not only in terms of what we need to implement, but also in terms of the regulations which are coming in, I think it's a welcome move as a supplier. But as a human being, I'm extremely happy that we are looking at these things not only from a perspective of being it, because the recent regulations where we have said that the mandate is not only for the high-end cars but also for all the cars. I think these are the aspects where we say that safety is not related to the economic status of an individual. It is for each and everyone in the country. However, having said so, there are challenges in front of us when it comes to regulations, because there are costs attached to it. We need to make it very visible, and we'll have to demonstrate that the value which every individual gets by spending that money on these safety aspects of a vehicle is much higher than the cost attached to it. So that's the criticality, both from an OEM perspective and the challenge from a supplier perspective. While we talk about it, it is also important that the infrastructure also needs to get built. A simple thing is, when we are talking about lane disciplines, every road has to have very visible lane marks to be there. But if you look at all the highways do have it, but does the interior roads in the interiors have it? No. So from that perspective, lane discipline becomes a good thing, but or something which we can visualize, but then not practically implementable in some of the roads of the interiors of the country. In the cities, it is pretty practical. It is pretty you can visualize it today, but not in all the roads. So good start, a lot of good steps taken. I would say that all in the right direction with the right motive. However, long way to go, but we have also covered quite some distance if you look at it the last 2 decades.
Right. It's interesting, Suresh, that you did say that it's a long-awaited move, especially for all sections of cars, for instance. And I'm not really fishing in troubled waters, but it also prompted a top CEO to kind of suggest that if you make it 6 airbags, for instance, mandatory across all cars, then the market would also go for a toss in terms of affordability. So you as a stakeholder, like I said, this is not about tug of war and two, but how do you see that? Because at one level, one can, yeah, please go ahead. Go ahead.
You see, when ABS was introduced, similar discussions happened. Similarly, so you see, it is a matter of getting used to safe practices. Um, when we were asked to wear masks, which is as recent as 2020, I think there was reluctance, if not resistance, for that. But over a period of time, we have got used to it, and that amount which you're spending on masks is not seen as a cost today. It is seen as a value to ensure that we are preventing from or rather it is a preventive measure for for protecting ourselves against COVID. So this is a path which we need to go through. Definitely initially it will be seen as cost, but I'm sure 5 years down the line you will see that it will become a hygiene factor where we'll say that it's not a cost, it is something which is part and parcel of my vehicle. So there will be these discussions around whether it will become whether it will become a detrimental factor for the volumes or making it prohibitively expensive. I don't think so. I think it is like learning swimming. You need to go through some amount of difficulties, but definitely you will get there. And I'm sure that we as a country also will get there over a period of time. And can we avoid these cost-related discussions? We cannot. But I'm sure the larger value will prevail, and people will start accepting that these are part and parcel of our vehicles from now on.
Right. Let's look at a company like ZF, for instance, where airbags is your area of, and the whole controversy, for instance, has revolved around airbags. So what is your take? If I have to make 6 airbags mandatory for all sections of cars, would it actually, from your point of view in a cost price sensitive market like India, would it actually make all cars, especially at the entry level, which accounts for a lion's share of the market, would it make that segment of cars prohibitively expensive in your view?
I don't think so. You see, again, I little bit correct myself, the statement saying that we are not a cost sensitive market. I try to put it as we are a value based market. We always, the Indian consumer always looks at, if I have to spend that 5,000 rupees or 10,000 rupees, what is the value I get? That is what the desirables don't come in, the necessities are always looked at. And when it comes to these, I feel that there will be an increase in cost. But it goes both ways. When the volumes increase from 2 to 6, the denominator for the volumes really goes up. From that perspective, the cost per unit has to come down when it comes to supplying these parts. So as the volume goes up, the cost of an airbag has to come down because the fixed cost gets distributed over a higher volume. That is one part of it. The second part of it is, while the airbags are some things which we feel that never should be utilized, because that is when there is an accident taking place, it always gives you a comfort that we are having a system in our car which helps you to say that even if there is an accident, the impact will be low because I have these facilities in my car. So there, the value of the airbag goes many times or will be 10 times or 11, 20 times more than the cost of the car. So to my understanding, an Indian consumer, even if it is at the entry level, will understand the cost aspect of it and see the value which it brings in, which will be much higher than the cost which he or she is spending on it.
And it's also what you reiterated, that eventually volumes will more than make up for cost.
Yeah, exactly. I think the volumes, because now we are talking about multiplying the number of cars which will have airbags.
Right.
It is not actually an incremental volume. We are talking about 2 or 3 times, because the moment the B and the C segment comes in, we are talking about the volumes which will be much higher.
Right. Also, you're absolutely right, because you've also had other CEOs in the past across different vehicle segments say that regulations have been way too excessive, especially at a time when the economy is going through a slowdown. And sometimes we seem to be overdoing it in terms of regulations. I've heard from CEOs saying that this aspect of copying or taking over from what Europe is doing, really it's horses for courses by the end of the day. And regulations are making vehicles expensive. And when vehicles are expensive in an already slow market, demand is impacted and nobody really benefits in the process. So how would you react to that on the aspect of safety?
You see, let's look at it this way. Mobiles are coming with added features and the costs are also going up. Is the volume reducing? I don't think so. There are features coming in, and those features we see value in. The mobiles have never become cheaper in the last 2 decades. It has just gone on the higher side. Similarly, when it comes to safety features, which is actually protecting your life, I don't think any individual will say that let me compromise this because I need to spend some few rupees more. Especially today, when the infrastructure in terms of roads are growing and becoming better and better, when people have started driving from one city to another much more than they used to be doing it before, at speeds which are between 70 and 100 kilometers per hour, to say the least, I'm sure that everybody is bothered more about safety of their own, of their kith and kin, which is different from the past. So from that perspective, I think the consciousness of safety, or the approach towards safety is very different from what it was in the 70s and the 80s from an Indian individual. Now, you may say that the regulations are becoming coming thick and fast, but unfortunately, we have a lot of catch up to do. And if you don't do that now, when will we do it? At some point, we have to catch up with Europe and the Western countries, because it is not actually copying Europe. It is actually valuing our life. And from that perspective, I don't think whether we copy from Europe or copy from the Western side is the right explanation to that. It is basically saying that an Indian life is a life of an Indian is equally important to that of a Westerner. And hence, we as a government or we as a society need to protect their life. And hence, a pedestrian on the road or a driver in the car or a passenger in the car needs to have protective equipments. So when you put that hat on, these regulations all fall into logic.
Right. And therefore, the argument of slow city speeds and therefore excessive regulations, in your view, doesn't hold water.
It doesn't. It will become normal pretty soon. Now, let us accept, we talked about scrappage policy. Why do we do the scrappage policy? It is not to increase volumes, to ensure that these age-old vehicles are not on the road, which are actually a risk for the passengers and the pedestrians. Again, a welcome move, so that at some point in time, we will have the recently launched vehicles on the road and not the age-old ones, which are always risky to lives of pedestrian and passengers. So I strongly believe that we will have to go through this catch-up mode and ensure that the lives on the Indian roads are also protected as it is needed. We cannot compromise there.
Right. No, it's a point well taken, because as you know, there have been editorials slamming, on both sides of the spectrum and things like that. Equally, from your point of view, and you're quite right in perhaps reminding me, it's not about price and cost sensitive, it's a value for money market. But equally, the fact remains that frugality or frugal engineering becomes a massive challenge. So for companies like yours, like when you look at advanced markets, and it's a fact that when it comes to regulations, you're also talking about a certain levels of affluence and higher per capita. And in a country like this, where obviously value is important, but the realities of affluence also have to be factored into, how difficult does it become for companies like yours when you have to get into the abiding by the regulations and catering to a mass market like this in
There,
frugality?
we have quite some work to do, and I fully agree with that. We cannot say that it can be prohibitively expensive and say that the consumers have to buy it because it is a value for life. And that's the responsibility of the value chain, which includes the OEMs and the suppliers. There has to be a very strong engineering support to look at how can we reduce the per piece price so that it becomes affordable. As one of the OEM's representatives mentioned to me, it said, KV, what we need is your products at affordable costs, and which is Indian price and Indian speed. And that's the challenge. And that's where frugality becomes very, very important. Okay. When it comes to, and there we need Indian engineers to look at what are the right things to do when it comes to adapting these products for the Indian market. Not only in terms of product design, we can also look at process design. If you go into a factory in the Western world, you will see that many robots are working there, which is capital intensive. Whereas in India, thanks to the labor availability, we may look at low-cost automation, which makes the conversion cost much lesser than what it is in the Western world. So while it is important that we look at the product design, because that's one of the major part of the cost, but I think we can also play around with the conversion costs and see how the frugal engineering and low-cost automation in the country, which has been a success, play to ensure that the per piece cost comes down drastically. So a lot of work to do, and that is the challenge in front of the organization like us. How do we take, and I call it the adopt and adapt process. How do you adopt the right products from the menu card, which is available in organization like us, adapt it to the Indian market and meet the customer expectations? That is where we say that it is just not industrialization of the product lines into the country alone. It is also equally important to bring in engineering, which will help us to look at the product design and the process design. And that challenge is in front of us, and we need to work on this. And if you do that, definitely, I am sure that we will be able to meet the customer expectations and customer expectations.
I'm sure work on that has begun in right earnest, because time is not infinite. So perhaps could you give a hint or a clue of what is underway right now at ZF? Because
just now Amit talked about our tech center being expanded in the last 5 years. You see, when we started off with a very strong focus on software development, but we also do a lot of benchmarking studies with the engineering teams there. We are also utilizing the tech center capabilities to present in front of the customers to show them what can be done with the ZF products, and how can we make these ZF products, which are a success in the Western market, to be adapted to the Indian environment. So benchmarking studies, looking at how can we make it cheaper by probably alternate materials, but still meeting the functions meeting the intent of the fit and function of the product, making sure that the conversion costs are lower. All these aspects are being done with a combination of both product design, process design, and product engineering, and application engineering, which is present both in the region for helping ZF to meet the customer expectations within the region.
It is hard work.
It is a hard work. Let me accept it. It is not easy because to meet the intent doesn't mean it's easily said than done. With lower costs, with alternate material, ensuring that the endurance is the same as what we need to have, and the specifications which ZF sets it, and with all that, there are success stories. There are also stories where we have not been so successful. There have been failure stories, but point is we are still working on this to ensure that we are able to meet it. And there, perseverance is the key. Continue doing it, and over a period of time, we will meet it.
If I have to put this is a slightly amateurish question, but if I have to put a like versus like question, let's say you have a certain cost point in Germany, which is where customers can afford to buy the end product. You are talking about minus 30% for India, or even far more than that?
Yeah, it depends. Again, I know it will be
let's look at airbags as a case in point.
Yeah,
Since
you see,
that's
minus 20 to 30 would be an average, but it all depends from a product to product. Look, you see, technology products, we may not be able to reduce it big time, but if you look at catalog products, then you will be able to reduce it much more. But I think minus 20 to 30 could be a good number to, that is always when an Indian purchaser will look at from a, when you move from something from the West to a best cost country like India. That would be a good average to talk about. But again, it depends on the product. It depends on the amount of technologies we have, also the amount of the possibilities to adapt it to the Indian into the Indian requirements. So
right. And again, as we march, I mean, since the topic of the last 2 days is safety, when you look at it, the imperatives of being part of a global supply chain should be intact. I mean, it's okay to talk about, let's say, a self-reliance and Atmanirbharta, but we cannot divorce ourselves from the global supply chain, can't we, to make these targets achievable?
Exactly. You see, whenever we start, it is easy to say that, you know, we need to industrialize and we also have localization targets, etc. But very rarely we get 100% localization. It's not that we don't have it. We do 100% localization as the product matures towards 3, 4, 5 years. But then global supply chain is a fact of life, and we need to accept that there will be some products which will have to be imported, because what happens is the volumes which we have in India, let us accept it, is not big enough for always to shift the complete production or to localize it in the Indian market. So some of them will be still cheaper to import it to start with. So what we generally start doing is we first localize the big parts, the high cost items. And then as the product starts maturing, we look at localization in such a way that we are shifting the production base from not from a supplier perspective, from Germany or from Europe to India, so that there is a volume advantage, which then Indian supplier can have, so that the investment cost becomes justifiable. So that is how we'll have to do. So the Indian volumes are good for the high value items. When it comes to low value items, it becomes difficult in the initial stages, unless and until the volume picks up, or we are able to add volumes from other regions to make it economically viable.
So in other words, to expect to live in isolation and even attempt protectionism in the quest for Nirbharta, Atmanirbharta, truly it cannot happen, not in isolation.
We cannot live in isolation, that's for sure. We will be dependent on other regions. The other regions will be dependent on India for sure. But how can we ensure that the dependence can be minimized is the art there. I'll give you a simple example. Okay, there may be a product which is cheaper to be imported. However, sometimes what we look at is to have a source in India validated, because when there is a sudden surge in demand, increase in demand, this particular source becomes cheaper than air freighting it from a Western country. So on a rainy day, this source will come handy to me but not on a normal day, they are still expensive than importing. So we may keep an 80-20 rule to say that I still keep an Indian source valid and running, only to ensure that on a day when I need to import by air, maybe I can look at this local source. So we have to have devices, different sets of different methods to ensure that we are utilizing the Indian vendors as well. But I am not sure whether we'll be completely able to isolate. I would say that it is a very small possibility that we'll be completely able to isolate the dependence on other regions, and vice versa.
Right. I'll take the liberty of just stretching your time by a minute or so because we started a couple of minutes late. When you again look at disruptions which we spoke about, electrification, autonomous driving, electrification definitely is an inevitable part of the Indian landscape. Does that again pose its own challenges on safety?
Yeah, of course it has. Again, it's a new technology coming in. We also heard the accidents which has happened on the electrified vehicles. Now, any new technology or any personal learning goes through a learning curve, and the initial parts of the learning curve has its own problems. So this we have to overcome. I'm also a little bit worried looking at the monsoon which we have and how our basements get flooded when we have big monsoons or unprecedented rains in some parts of the country as well, like places like Mumbai. So those are all
valid point. Wow.
Those are all factors which we need to come in. If you have a charging point in your basement and imagine it gets flooded, you see, you are risking. So these are the things which we need to keep in mind, because unfortunately, our safety orientation is not as high as what it should be, though we have come a long way there. So there are risks attached to it. But again, the same thing, I can only give the examples of mobiles. We have heard mobiles burning down when it was introduced initially, but we have overcome that, and the percentages of such damages and such accidents have reduced drastically. The same thing is exactly what I think will happen here. We will learn, some of them will be prevented, some of them we will learn the hard way. But of course, whenever a new technology comes in, there are aspects which are the risks related to a new technology. We have to face it and go through it. That is the only way we get over it and become and mature with those new technologies.
Amazing. Here's one last question, and I think it's only appropriate that on this topic of safety, specifically on ZF, could you perhaps give an idea of some of the initiatives on safety that you're working on, specifically at ZF for India during the course of this decade?
You see, as far as we are bringing in the safety products, and we have been actively working with all the stakeholders to see how can we introduce more and more safety products into the vehicles, whether it is braking, steering, which are the passive safety parts, then the active safety parts like the seat belts, airbags, which we talked about. We give a lot of focus on safety in our working environments, be it our offices or even the factories for that matter. We also, through our CSR wings, we do a lot of safety initiatives to ensure that traffic signals are provided in junctions where there are quite some traffic jams, and also we have heard that there are a lot of accidents. We have done it in all our locations. We support hospitals to ensure that there are wherever they find they need some help in terms of their own, not only in terms of preventive safety, but also in terms of solving their safety issues which they have. So I would say that while we have a lot of safety products, so we do that support is given because that comes from our product range. We give from the employees with whom we work, we give a lot of focus on safety, and again, zero tolerance to unsafe acts in all our premises. And we are extending all support to the city, to the society, to see how we can support them to make each and everybody's life safer. So that's and again, not to talk about the support which gave to the societies during the COVID times as well. So whatever support we can do to the industry, to our own employees, and to the society, we always take a very proactive approach to ensure that this planet becomes safer by the day.
Suresh, what a pleasure talking to you. You just left me with a very important thought on rains and electric scooters in the basement. I just hope we don't have any more catastrophes happening. We're all, I think, keeping our fingers crossed.
I'm sure we'll find out preventive solutions, but I'm only saying that these are the risks which are in front of us. Organizations should be working on the solutions to it. It's nothing new. It's nothing which is coming out of the blue, but I'm sure that the organizations who are launching the charging stations will find solutions for the same.
Yep. Let's all keep our fingers crossed. Suresh, as always, what a pleasure talking to you. Take care and thank you for your time.
Thank you, Murli, and thank you for this opportunity. Thanks.
Take care. Bye. Mayank, back to you. Thank you. Thank you, Suresh.
Thank you, Mr. Suresh. Thank you, Murli.
Thank
What an engaging conversation, and what a way to summarize this overall conclave. Safety is holistic, and we need to move towards safety not just on the roads but also at your offices and wherever you are. So safety is actually paramount. So with that, we'd like to conclude this event, the 2-day webinar, the Autocar Professional Vehicle Safety Conclave. Thank you very much for being a part of this. And over the course of the 2 days, we've discussed so much about I think underlining theme of this event has been affordability in safety. And yesterday we discussed about the implementation roadmap of ADAS features in vehicles in India, as well as the Bharat New Car Assessment Program, or the BNCAP, which is sort of ready, as Mr. A.V. Manikar from ARAI told us today, and it can be expected anytime soon to be rolled out. So we discussed that yesterday, and today we had a panel discussion wherein we discussed about engineering affordable safety solutions for India. We had a keynote address from Mr. Todd Morgan, the CTO of Lumax, describing and detailing about what could be some of the cost-effective solutions to improve safety when it comes to lighting technologies, because lighting, as you know, it goes a little bit, maybe it's not that valued, but it's also one of the most important parts of your vehicle when you're driving on the road at nights, and you want that kind of visibility around you. So we actually wanted to touch upon lighting, and we invited Mr. Morgan, and he touched upon the different aspects that could be expected in the near future in terms of auto dipping high beams, which could be relevant for the Indian market. Then we discussed the different aspects of engineering and testing and validation capabilities in India. And we had RASI, the Road Accident Sampling Survey for India, which is gathering an entire database of road accident data, and how they are utilizing and analyzing that data to identify the black spots on Indian roads, and how they are using that data to work in conjunction with OEMs and component makers to devise more solutions which are relevant for the Indian market. So with that, I would like to thank you once again for being a part of the webinar and taking out your time. We really hope that you enjoyed it and you had a lot of takeaways from this. And I would like to thank our sponsors once again, our associate partner Continental and our technology partner Henkel. So with that, we will see you again next time. Until then, take care. Please be safe. Thank you.